a wonderful way to get involved. I want to thank Fern for being the altar girl. And because it's a lovely thing to know, what are these water bowls about? How do you set them up? What do you do? And then you do it, and the part of this course is about empowerment. So, then you feel like, hey, I can do something. I understand. That's how I learned. I learned from somebody else, and then I set them up completely improperly, and somebody said, oh, no, not so hot, and then I went, oh, okay. And then I learned slowly how to set them up. That's what we do. So it's great. So thank you so much. And all the other people involved, the lunch and everything, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And the director and Carrie and all the people that came before all those people. Many people like that. So it's great. Thank you. So how is your freedom? Are you free? You're liberated? Great. Love it. One lunch and she's done. I love that. Very kind. Oh, did it turn around? Oh, no, it's here. I turned around. So it's interesting to examine a little bit, isn't it? Have you thought about it before? We don't really think about it. First of all, we're really quite free in many ways. We have a lot of freedom, and then what do we do with our freedom when you think about it? So that's something I'm exploring this myself, the possibilities of things I do for him. And then I can't study as much, and I haven't been able to do as much retreat, and I'm, so I kind of think, are there certain things I can shift so I can have a little bit more time for that? Because there are little time wasters in between that I'm, the grocery store shopping near him, if I really want to get the best price and the best produce, and it's 3 stores, but I could just go to one. But that's my little, I went, well, I'll just and they have a sale there, so and then I don't have to do it, but it takes longer to drive to the other place, and then I'm thinking, does it really matter? And, so there's all kinds of little things like that we have that take up the time. So, and then a lot of you obviously working full-time. I also have a full-time job with the teaching, organizing courses, all the logistics that come in for the teachings for me to do, and then lots of students' emails. And so that's a full-time job, and I'm not quite getting to all of it. So then I kind of think how to adjust, and you do the best you can do, right? So please be satisfied to some degree that you do the best you can do, and yet you also know where you can a little bit more adjust, where you're not really doing it. You're wasting time. So I think that's helpful. Any questions or comments from that, from anything this morning? No one in the English Centers has any questions? I'm like, yesterday we were really still in Liverpool, and if you have some questions or things, the reason I ask is I tend to tailor courses to what people's issues are, so feel free, otherwise I'll just roll with what I'm going to do anyway, but sometimes it can be helpful like that, so.
Consider myself as truly free, well, I've got a head full of delusions and attachment and things like that, and being a bit under control and things like that at times, rather than being able to make really rational decisions.
Right. And maybe decisions a little bit more aligned with what you might say the truth or an accurate view, more accurate view. But again, then we're just trying, you just do your best in that space to try to get out of the mess at some point. Yeah, that is hard. Because every decision we make is tainted, is like I don't have the whole perspective. I got as best as I've gotten it at this particular point in time. But and a lot of times because we have decisions all the time, because again, with the multiplicity of options, whatever, so when I make a decision, if it's like a life decision or moving or my dad or the tour or something, and then I always ask, like, what's the most beneficial thing? Meaning for the bigger, how, and that often will inform what I'm doing, like that.
So is that sort of the connection? I'm trying in my head to work out the connection between freedom and compassion. So is it to do with that if part of our idea of freedom is being able to do exactly what I want, what you were talking about earlier on, being is the connection between freedom and compassion, sort of seeing that if we're not free, it's because what we're doing in our mind, and that with compassion, that the more we can lessen that sense of I and me and my, then in a broader sense, the freer we are to go out and be more open towards other people.
It's partly like that. Yeah, because if I just want to do what I want to do, I've missed the point of the interdependence. So that you have a freedom that isn't impacting negatively myself or others. But sometimes just what I want to do isn't really maybe best for other people. So am I really free then? Yeah, in that context, so the compassion then opens up the heart and mind to kind of consider, I don't really feel like washing out plastic bags and saving them. It's a hassle. I hear people say this, it's a hassle. But then landfills in my country, then is this issue, the bags don't break down, they affect animals. So what's the big deal to wash out a plastic bag? And then I get in the habit of washing out a plastic bag. It's no big deal. I wash dishes. I don't want to eat on a dirty dish. So that's a minor thing, but you see how it impacts. I mean, Americans drive really large cars. They drive large cars because gas is cheap, for one, cheaper than here, and then they're concerned if they have a small car and a big car hits them, they'll be injured more. It's so then I got to buy for my safety of my family, but they forget about their carbon footprint. It's not really wise anymore in this world if you're not living in a snow area or wild terrain, do you need a four-wheel drive vehicle? As we would call it, all-terrain vehicle, four-wheel drive, which many people in my neighborhood have. It's like the 20s, 2000s, we called them, I don't know how you called them in the States, and here, years ago, station wagons. Yeah, not a pickup truck. A station wagon was a suburban vehicle that came into the States in the 60s. There were some in the 50s, but we had one. Every family had one because you pile the kids in the back and off you go. Then and the dog, of course the dog. But then it turned into what we called in the States, again, you have your own names, minivan. So I call it a suburban vehicle. They're not practical to park in the city, but because you put a lot of kids in them and you're shuttling your kids around. So the station wagon it was utilitarian, it was functional. Then the minivan developed, but the minivan didn't have all-terrain, all-wheel drive. So if there was a little ice or something, so the SUVs, we call them, sport utility vehicle, has where the tires rotate on their own, they can do their thing, and if there is a little bit of snow, so everybody on our street has them now for their kids, whether they have kids, but some city people, some suburban people don't know how to operate the all-wheel drive operation, like they don't use it. So it's like, couldn't you just get a smaller car that but could fit the kids? Anyway, so it's just a mindset of, that's how the States, and then you see your neighbor has one, so I'm going to get one.
I was about to say, do you think it's a case of that as well, keeping up with Joneses, and what would other people think?
That's right. That's right, and people do that. I notice just if I walk in my neighborhood, it's a standard suburban development is what it's called in the States. Every house looks alike, just different colors. Every house alike. So I notice how people renovated their homes over the years because it's a 62-year-old neighborhood. My dad's an original owner. There's not many left. So I see how they renovated, and these people got the porch, so these people got a porch, and these people they did it, but then it didn't happen later because these people didn't live next door. And so we are in competition. And part of that is my compassion is I don't need to be in competition. Are you okay how you are? Because you're working on yourself and you're doing the best you can, and then because people might need help, and so it's related like that. The freedom and compassion, like you said, it's very much so. And then just to go, and this is from Thupten Jinpa, a fearless heart. A fearless heart embraces this fundamental truth of our human condition again. This is Brian Stevenson. This is Archbishop Desmond Tutu. There's also a man, one of my new heroes in the country, in the States. There's a youngish, a senator senator for us is the higher house in Congress from the state of New Jersey, which is just outside of New York. And he was the mayor of a very impoverished city in the state of New Jersey. And he lived there for a long time, and now he is a senator from that state. And he's a wonderful guy, and he wrote a book about his experience as mayor. And he talks about, again, the shared human condition, the same thing. And he also gave up at one point in a tenement building with drug users and horrible poverty and violence, and trying that the people that lived there, the families, wanted to take this neighborhood back to raise their kids, and how he worked with them and community organizers. And he gave up at one point. He made so many mistakes, and they tried to, different people he tried to connect with. And so a fearless heart embraces this fundamental truth of our human condition. We can develop the courage to see and be more compassionately in the world, to live our lives with our hearts wide open to the pain and joy of being human on this planet. So when we say pain, this is difficult for us. We don't want pain. We're not interested in that at all. Joy, okay, but not pain. But the thing is, when you recognize your brokenness, you have to face the pain, and it's the only way through. So Pema Chodron is all about practice. For me, my practice is getting more comfortable with the uncomfortable. Samsara is uncomfortable. So the more I can do the dance with that, of realizing, oh, today I woke up and I have a really bad headache, or my father's having an issue and has to go to the hospital, or this is happening, or I don't really like my boss, I don't really like my job, or I don't really feel like going to work today. That's life, right? Some of you accept that, okay? And accept it, though, but with the heart wide open. So again, as bodhisattva warriors, if we're on the path to becoming a bodhisattva, you have to do it in stages. You don't want to go out there stupidly. You can't take in every street person to your house. I don't really think that makes sense. But what's my attitude when I see a homeless person? What's my attitude when I see a refugee? What's my attitude when I see somebody different than me? Somebody all pierced up and tattooed. What's your reaction? What's your response? Open-hearted, like there's a human being there? Or is it like judgment and, whoa, what's going, she must really have problems, or, So Jimpa says, and this is something I thought about low self-esteem, why do we have it more in the West, where my Sherpa, Nepali, Tibetan sisters and brothers not so much. And he says in this book, just the fact that he was valued just for being a human being in his family, just for being human, he was valued and respected, okay? It's different with a lot of Western families I know. We had a lot of competition in my family. So when I brought home a report from school when I was maybe 12 or 13, and the grade was 100 you could get was the best, and I got a 98 on it or something. So I came home, and then I had a parent say, well, how come you didn't get 100? So immediately I'm not okay. I'm not okay if I'm not perfect, okay? So, but the thing is, I'm not perfect. I'm not a Buddha. I'm trying. One day I hope to get there, but I'm not there now. So I'm going through a whole thing where I'm never okay. I'm never okay unless it's perfect. In samsara, nothing's perfect. So I'm just constantly blooding my head against a wall, setting myself up every day for rejection. And that's not the truth anymore for me. I'm okay. I make mistakes, and I'm okay. That's just my nature. So what you do is you want to try to keep the attitude open, and I watch when I make judgments now. I'll see somebody really different, and watch my mind, but I don't open this, right? But I'll think, I'll watch the thought, and I'll be like, well, that was a really big judgment about that person. I don't even know them. But the mind's already activated just from past habits, social conditioning, the environment I was raised in, and I'll see some really negative judgment go out about somebody. And then we talk about the wild horse of the mind, okay? So there goes the wild horse out, rearing up. There goes the judgment. And there I am. I just gathered the reins. And this is my awareness. Whoa. Okay, back. Calm down. I'm okay, everything's okay. I just had kind of negative judgment in my mind. I'm human. But I'm not going to interact with that person from the negative judgment. From that way, I'm not going to open my mouth and say something negative. And now that I see what's going on a little bit more clearly, I have perspective. So now maybe I'll think, oh, maybe they're just like me. They want to be happy. They don't want to suffer. You know, they decided to decorate their body like that. I decided to decorate my body like this. Shave my head, wear maroon robes. That's different. So what's the big deal? So again, it's an attitude about differences. And then sometimes what's helpful is, I find this from some of the books I've been reading on diversity, is if you have privilege in your life, and like a lot of white people on the planet, for instance, but not just white people, but is how do I assert myself in the world? And, you know, I have a lot of confidence based on my background and my education and my opportunities. And some of my friends have not. They don't have that confidence because that's not how the opportunities have aligned for them. So I just notice when I'm in a space and you're in a restaurant and the food that came isn't what you ordered, and what's your response? Where I will assert myself to say, oh no, this isn't what I ordered. But I have some friends that don't dare to speak up like that because they've been beaten down for it, yelled at, you know, like thrown out of a place because of that, just because of the color of their skin or something. So, you know, I've learned to value the privilege, but then I have to choose how I'm going to use it beneficially, like that. So it's tricky. So again, opening their hearts, and so can I keep my heart open? And I know that if you're ever around His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I've had the good fortune to be around him several times, and it's disarming because we have certain walls, I think, in this space that we construct, and you have compartments. So what you do is you put people in compartments because it's safer, and I know how to act. So I kind of like, I got you over here, and you guys, and now I can manage it. Okay, His Holiness, the feeling I had with him is there's no walls, there's no compartments, just blissful space, and we're not around people like that much. So. And I've seen people that go to the palace and they have a meeting with him and you get an interview, and it takes a lot. There's a screening process and security and I had a meeting once for half an hour alone, and you go in, and when you come out, many of these people I've seen, myself included, the meeting was in the afternoon and I came out, and shortly after I had the meeting, I went out to this temple, and there's a big Chenrezig statue, Dharamsala. And you're so transported into another world to have that kind of time with the King of Kindness and this Buddha, I think, this extraordinary being. So you kind of can't speak. And I came out and I saw the statue, and I just burst into tears from the kind of energy around him, how pure he is, right? And you're kind of blissed out. And the rest of the day I was like not walking on the ground. I was just a little bit, you know, kind of, I've seen people come out and they're like, you know, they can't speak. So because his heart's wide open, so anybody that comes, the potential for him is like a new friend. Like he's always, because his whole purpose is to serve others. So as soon as he sees other, he's like all lit up. He's all like, hey, what's going on there? You know, what new potential? He has friends all over the planet. He's got full energy from this. So he's in his 80s now. And I've been at some programs, and he's teaching he already started the program a few hours before we got there to set up for this initiation. And maybe the initiation one day we might be there for 6 hours. So I'm guessing 8, 9 hours. He finishes, and we're all falling asleep. We're all like, God, I'm exhausted, you know. And then he strides off the stage, and he's on the stage, and he's like waving like a 16-year-old. He's all, you know, it's extraordinary. So you could plug into that circuit, I think, based on facing our fears and our pain slowly, as much as we're able to consider and analyze what is the fear, what is going on, you know, what is a lot of fear for you? What do you think's underneath fear? There's something underneath it. So it's good to analyze, because people have panic attacks, and somebody close to me, and I always say to them, okay, not when you're in a panic attack, what what do you think was the cause? What made you panic this time? You know, when they start analyzing, it starts falling apart. So it becomes this pattern in the mind. I just have to panic because, but when you analyze, so what do you think is underneath your fear? Any ideas when you get afraid? Ego? And the
very strong sense of self.
strong sense of self?
And the idea that that self is somehow going to be harmed by something.
Right. Now sometimes there's a real threat. That understand certainly makes sense. Sometimes there's not. But the mind, some people's minds ruminate through anxiety, becomes a pattern like that. There's something else under fear. I've noticed for myself what is kind of operating that relates to ego. Any other thoughts on that of your experience?
Sometimes fear of failure.
Feel of failure, sure. Which also relates to fear of failure. Yeah.
Beyond ego, ignorance is the root cause.
The root cause is ignorance. Yep. Yep.
Occasionally it can almost be the opposite, almost a fear of the power we have in a situation.
Mm-hmm. And there's that famous quote, is it Marianne Williamson, or the quote about what we're really afraid of is how great we are? There was a quote before that was, I remember, but I think that's true too, yeah. Fear of succeeding, But for me, what comes underneath all these things, it's all related, is loss of control. When you don't have, which is, the ego, it has to be this way. I need it this way. I need to be recognized. I need this to happen. And then I need to succeed. So I don't want to, I don't want to fail because I don't, how I'll be viewed. And what can you control? What do you have control over in your life?
Only yourself to a certain extent. You can't
Just-
control nothing.
Just your mind.
Yeah.
Just your mind. You can't control anything else. So to relate this to Pema Chodron, back to this fundamental ambiguity of being human, okay? Okay, here's something. This is, what is it like to realize we can never completely and finally get it all together? I love that. It was liberating for me. What is it like to realize we can never completely and finally get it all together? I hear so many people, students, friends, they're, as soon as when I get the new job and I get settled in, then I'm going to get my altar set up. I can't meditate now because for the altar I need this elaborate table. As soon as my kid gets off to university, then something's going to start. Then the next thing. As soon as I sort that thing with my boss, as soon as my husband, and as soon as we sort this, as soon as I get rid of the old car, and as soon as, you're never going to have it all together. Let that go, and just, it's present moment, proceeding. Can I work on my mind and keep the rest of my life going as best as I can? But if you really want to have a practice, something else is going to have to go if you're not finding time for practice right now. So it's about priorities. And it's up to you. Nobody's going to force you, but it's like if you say, no, I'm great the way things are going right now. It's really going well. I'm good. Then great. Don't worry about it. But if you've got kind of things and you go, then you just have to evaluate what is working, what are the time wasters, can I adjust any things here? Some people are workaholics. I've been a workaholic. And that's another form of laziness. Being too busy. We think busyness is okay. And I meet people. There's a woman, there's a few people I know, but one I worked with, a dear friend of mine, I love her dearly. She's got an amazing heart, but no sense of herself. But she said to me one day, this insight, she said, all this giving and doing all this stuff for other people constantly, she said, it's just a way for me to avoid looking at my mind. So it wasn't selfless. It was just her avoidance, that she didn't want to do the work, so it was easier to just, be this bodhisattva that was just doing all these things, but she wasn't happy. She wasn't very happy, and then you're not really giving from a pure place. So let go of the idea that you're going to have it all together, because it is samsara. You're a human being. It's not possible. But there are some things you can have quite together, of a balance in my life. I've reprioritized some things. I do that every year or so. I kind of have, people have New Year's resolutions, we say. That's a little bit of prioritizing. You look at it once a year. Those New Year's resolutions, most people I know, they never work. But let's realistically prioritize. And I do evaluate at times, okay, now I'm here with my practice, and what I'd like to do, I might say to myself, I would like to have more time for retreat. So how can I realistically do it? And you really realistically look at, one of my priorities is to be around my dad now. So that's important. And then I might list them, and you can list them in order of importance. Okay, so based on that, I've decided I won't do a long, long retreat right now, because I think that would be too hard for him. Okay, I'm okay with that then. But I can do shorter retreats. So how many do you want to do a year? How much of a year? Where can you do it? Some friends have offered places like that. And you just see if that's something, then I need to schedule it on my calendar. But sometimes I busy it up with teaching places, and then I forget, and then I go, oh wait, you scheduled too much, and how, so a little bit worth looking at like that. Make sense? Make sense? Okay. And then part of this about not having it all together, but is it also possible to increase your tolerance for instability and change? Because this is going to show up all the time. Instability and change. How is it when it shows up? Because right now we live on a planet, and you could say there's a lot of violent activities that seem to happen randomly. Buddhism says there's no randomness to anything. If the cause is there, the result will occur. If the cause is there based on karma, the result will occur. The result can be purified before it occurs, if it's going to be a negative result. If it's a positive result, it could be destroyed with tremendous anger and hostility before it occurs. But basically, the cause has to be there. So in your own life, we talked about this a bit in Liverpool, what are you creating the cause for? What are you creating the causes? What kind of causes are you making? And if you're noticing a consistent result that you don't like, that's the first thing I would look at, is I'm really tired of this. This is always happening. So what kind of cause might get me that? You might not be able to directly understand the cause, but in Buddhism we do purification practices, and that can help you dismantle a cause before it purifies, whether you know the cause or not, or whether you're aware of it or not. Vajrasattva practice is one of those. Vajrasattva practice, and they can teach you how to do that here at this center. Okay, so again, to live our lives with hearts wide open to the pain and joy of being human on this planet. As utterly social and moral creatures, we each yearn to be recognized and valued. We long to matter, especially in the lives of those whom we love. Okay, we like to believe our existence serves a purpose. We're meaning-seeking creatures. Okay, so what is it about meaning? What lends meaning to your life? I'm just curious. What do you feel? And it's something for yourselves to think more deeply about. And I would say on one level, part of meaning for me relates to when I'm really deeply happy. When am I happy? So first I thought about when am I happiest? What are the times in my life I enjoy the most? That would be part of it, okay? But I'm not talking about a superficial level. But first I kind of looked at this when I was in my 30s. And I got to a center and got into Buddhism, and I started thinking about this. How do I think about this new work? I gave up my career, and now my career is working in these Dharma centers. So what kind of ideas do you think come up if somebody says, do you have meaning? What gives meaning to your life? Making meaning in your life, what does that mean? Do you have that in your lives? What does it relate to then? How does that work for you? Just curious. If anybody cares to say.
Two thoughts really on that one. First is family and friends are very important. But also, in fact, the Dharma to give you sort of a view upon the world is really important to me.
Yep. Yep.
Those two together are really what make up my life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, very much so. Yep. Other things that.
Other things are much less important.
Yes. Yes. No, that's nice. I think what you said about relates to connection. So healthy connection. Again, I mentioned this before, creating healthy relationships with people. And I'll talk about empathy in a moment. So for me, I went through this phase. This is in my 30s. Looking, I was like, at a center now. How long do I want to be at this center? Does this give my life meaning? I used to volunteer, help homeless people, and this AIDS project I worked for a long time, and I did feel good there in these instances. But was it self-serving that I wanted to say I volunteered? It didn't just come from that. I really wanted to help, and so then I kind of had a thing, but when I'm really happy when I'm on a beach holiday, like that, I love that. Like, could I have more of that? So I thought about it. And then I thought, when you're on a beach holiday, most people, if you get a week, that's time. But I had an extended one once for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I think something, because I was in between. I came out of a retreat, and then before I went home, thought I'm going to take a break. So I did, but then after a while it gets boring. It was boring. I read my books. I had my part-time in the day. I read. I did my practice. I went swimming. I talked to the people I met. I had a meal. And the next day was then back. It was the same. It just, something was, something wasn't. So then later I was running the center in California, and we hosted big retreats. So Rinpoche came to this retreat. The retreat was about a month long with 80 people. And we were hosting it. They were staying with us. We were cooking for them. And about halfway through the retreat, one night we finished the session, and a number of us from the retreat went out to the shrine, the stupa. And we were walking around the stupa, and the lights on the stupa, and it's in a redwood forest, and everybody was really happy, and the retreat was going really well. Rinpoche was happy. The staff was happy, and it was just humming along, right? And I remember thinking, and it was really beneficial for people, the retreat seemed to be, and I just felt so high from that, like deeply content. Like I thought, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. I'm manifesting myself in a really positive way that I feel totally in sync. So that kind of woke me up. This is meaning for me. And then I wanted to very much just continue to move in that direction, which is what I've done, like just to keep. Now there's times I get off balance. Like I'll lose a track for a bit, and my jobs have changed, and there's been complications, and so you're constantly, but as long as you keep that light, what lights you up, the juice inside, and then remind myself of that, you can rebalance, recenter. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. I mean, I had a moment, because I used to work in politics. When you look at politics and people get kind of up in, their issues and things, and very passionate about it. But because I worked in it and I had these skills, I could turn the skills to the centers, which was great, to help the centers with these similar skills. But so recently, when I mentioned this man from New Jersey, his name is Cory Booker. Okay, so please watch for him, because he's rising up, and I hope he'll run for president of the United States one day. And so then I had this idea lately, because I live near New Jersey, and I do a lot of work with our center in New York. And our center in New York, Shanti Deva Meditation Center, connected to this center, they've created some very, very positive conditions right now, and some exciting things are happening for them. They don't have a place like this, but they're hopefully later this year going to move into their first rented space, and they're great practitioners and wonderful people. And so then it was a matter of living near there, and then I got this idea in my mind. I wonder if I could go work for Cory Booker, and not that they would hire me, but I had, if I got my CV together and thought to even volunteer to do something. And then I kind of thought politics kind of go ups and down. I thought it's a distraction for myself, right? So it's funny how you get into these ideas that this is the best thing I should do or something. And So really, I think also through connecting, and this is from Thupten Jinpa, related to what you said about friends and family, and it's through connecting with other people, actually making a difference to others, bringing joy into their lives, that we make our own lives matter, that we bring worth and purpose to our own lives. This is the power of compassion. So if you're not clear about what makes meaning in your life, think about that. Can I connect to help others? And I'm not doing it in a righteous way. I don't mean in a right, like, you're the victim, oh, woe is you, because that's pity and sympathy, and they're disempowering. Pity and sympathy is, I'm really sorry your mother died. And there's a different way you hear it in people's tones. I'm really sorry your mother died. Oh, your mother died, I'm so sorry. But I really don't want to, the back of it is I don't want to get my hands dirty. I can't be in there with you. As opposed to, my mother died, I'm so sorry. How about I'm going to the grocery store. What can I get? Can I pick up some? I'm going to buy some tea. Can I get you a bag of groceries? I'm going, please. I'm going to drop stuff off anyway. I'm going to make some soup for you tonight. Or I'm so sorry, you know. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk about anything? I'm here. I understand what that is. Even if your mother didn't die, you can have compassion, but pity and sympathy makes you a victim. Oh, wow. Well, that's heavy, but I don't want that to be anywhere near me. I don't want her to get anywhere, you know. Distance, pity and sympathy adds distance. Compassion and empathy, I'm in there with you. You know, I'm actually over-relating to the, not even over-relating, I understand what that's about for you. I don't have to have my mother die, but I understand the pain, because I've looked at my pain, and that's really painful. And I'm going to be here, I'm going to stand here with you in that. You know, and sometimes you don't have to say anything. You can stand, I'm so sorry. My sister's husband, he was British. He passed away some years ago of a very bad illness, and it was horrible. And they were living in England, London at the time, and so he was an artist, and he had a show, an opening for the show, and he was mentally ill for 11 years, very ill. So he had this show opening, and it was very exciting that he had a show, and he's a really great artist. And then I think 2 days before the show was to open, he committed suicide. So friends, my sister, the family tried to call everybody. The show went on because the gallery, you know, and they had a sign outside explaining what happened, because he was supposed to be there. And they didn't reach all their friends, so some of the friends came, and this is how they learned about that he died. And some of them didn't even know he was ill. So people come and they feel uncomfortable, so they say things to you that don't really help. And I know when my mom died and my brother, and my mother was older, and you know, she'd been suffering for a long time, so it was kind of a blessing. And people came to our house, some of our relatives, and they said, and my brother and I were there, and people would say, she's in a better place now. And then my brother went into the kitchen and he said to me, how do they know? Like he got tired of people saying that. But people say, you know, they're trying to, but I find that that's distance. That's not really. So one of her friends came up to her, and what do you say when somebody committed suicide? And you know, everybody's broken. So one of her friends came up to her and said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. And she said that was the most honest thing, that for this woman to stand there with her, and then she didn't have anything else to say. She just said, you know, I'm here. If you need somebody, I'm here. And so that's a tricky one of the compassion, wanting people to be free of suffering is what compassion is. Wanting people to be free of suffering. Okay? But again, to suffer with. So I'm with you in that. I'm with you in that. Empathy is our natural ability to understand other people's feelings and share in their experience. So it consists of two key components: an emotional response to someone's feelings and cognitive understanding of his or her situation. If you say my mother died and you say I'm so sorry, I'm not emotionally connected to it. You know, kind of really, I don't want to feel the pain. Okay. Empathy is, I'm so sorry. Wow. Like in my mind, it's like, that sucks. That really sucks. Whether your mother died or not, it sucks because you've lost somebody. Well, I don't care if it's a pet, that's hard when you lose somebody. Okay, so I've got the emotional response and a cognitive understanding of their situation. Okay, if somebody's lonely, we've all had experiences of loneliness. It doesn't mean at that particular moment to be empathetic, you need to be lonely. But I reach back into when I felt lonely. I've got my emotional response to that, and you say, I'm really, really lonely. And I reach back and I go, wow, I know what that's like. I've been there. So I've got that, and then I've got the understanding of where you are right now. So there we are together in that. Our emotional response may take the form of resonance in which we experience an emotion similar to the other person's. So empathy, a kind of feeling with, again, like compassion, feeling with. Or it could be a feeling for the other, okay? So again, like loneliness, I'm not feeling lonely right now, but I'm really feeling for you in that space. I know that really is painful for you, very difficult for the mind. So, and it's interesting with empathy, it actually works also neurologically, and they're finding now from studies that are proven. For years they've done studies of hooking up meditators to the electrodes to measure the responses on a computer screen. And when in 94, I traveled with this Lama, Kirti Senchab Rinpoche, and we were in North Carolina, and these scientists wanted to hook him up to a computer, and they did, and I watched the screen, and they said, can you meditate on compassion? And then the screen kind of went in one way, the brain things, right? And then it was Tonglen meditation, which is slightly different, taking on others' suffering, offering them happiness just through visualization, and it changed. And then they did another meditation, and it changed. An analytical meditation was different, and so they're now finding, there's proof now that through positive mind states activated through meditation, so let's say you're meditating a lot on compassion, the Buddha of compassion. There's a practice you could do, a little practice that has some prayers, and you read things, and then you visualize something. Most of the sadhanas is a Sanskrit word for method of accomplishment. So meaning, through this method, I'm going to accomplish becoming the Buddha of compassion, or meaning I will attain higher states of realization. Okay, method of accomplishment, sadhana. So through this, they're designed somewhat similarly. You set up a motivation thing, take refuge, motivation like that, and then there's a visualization of the Buddha and kind of his world system, right? And then you do some visualizations of the light, this, empowering, whatever, cleaning, and then there's a mantra you might recite of the Buddha. There might be many mantras, different mantras, okay? And what it does is it creates, if it's done well, it can create a closer connection with you and that aspect of the Buddha that is really realized in your own mind. You become more compassionate. It's the Buddha of compassion, okay? So they're finding, the neuroscientists are finding that from doing these compassion practices, new neural pathways of positive health got activated in the brain. So it's the same for terrorists. Other negative neural pathways are exercising for hostility and harm. Okay, so we want to be very careful. Even as soon as I open this to activate a snippy remark to somebody, it's coming from the brain that is activated by the mind. So I'm kind of creating that habit. So empathy, how it works in the brain, it works in the limbic system, known for its role in processing emotional signals. So I have more empathy, okay? I'm better able to keep my heart open with other people's pain and my own pain. The people that aren't, you end up repressing, denying, or blaming and acting out from your pain. None of that is helpful, and that's not a Buddhist path. It's not a Buddhist path. We will take a break in a little bit. Okay? So we're not about suppressing or repressing. Denying doesn't work. Bottling it up, or acting out like that. So it's about facing up to what is happening acknowledging I'm in pain right now, then you have to analyze the pain. So when I said if you're afraid, through my analysis of myself, I kind of went, it's really about kind of being out of control. You know, the biggest fear we have is about death, I think, fundamentally. But what you do is you cover it with other fears. Okay, but underneath, it's like, I'm a mortal being and I'm going to die one day. And for me, I have a fear of dying in a lot of pain. And I don't want to be overly medicated, so I can't do my practice. So I've been with a lot of people dying, and sometimes you can't maintain the balance. So you either have a lot of pain, or you're doped up. You know, so a lot of pain, like, will I be able to manage that? I don't know. So sometimes that pops up, and I'll go, however, if my practice is solid enough, I feel like I'm not going to worry about it, because it's the best I can do. You know, it's the best I can do. So for me, it's that kind of thing. And then what it helped me with is, because I have this fear of, I won't have control at the death time. Well, before that, a lot of people have a fear of losing control of their minds and bodies in old age, if you live to be old. You know, we don't want other people to take care of us. We don't want to be a burden. I don't want somebody dressing me or bathing me, you know, the integrity of that, you know, okay, but that's, again, interdependence. I help my dad. You know, he doesn't need dressing and bathing now. But I help him with so many things around the house. Why? He can't do it anymore. That's crazy. Why expect somebody 90 years old to do this kind of thing? So I'm happy to do that. How many things did he do for me? You kidding? Unbelievable life he gave me. So interdependence. So we rise to the occasion, but with joy. Because then I'll acknowledge that, and then what happens for him is, World War II generation guys, somebody like him who could fix anything and was the pillar strength and the family. So it's very hard for him to ask for help, to accept, to receive help. So he has his way he does it, that he asks for it. And I've had to get creative to understand that he's asking for help when I didn't know initially, because I ask for help differently. I'll just say, can you help me? I need help with this.
Right, I meet a lot of people in my job, and I think the hardest thing for them is to accept where they are now. They're holding on to what they used to be able to do, what they could do, and that's a real big thing. If they could just get over that, I think
What kind of job are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's that's the hardest thing.
It's torturous. I see people, it's so torturous of you're not being in the present, not accepting. So something about the present that I'm just looking, we're all experiencing this right now, looking around. It's this word called aging. Familiar with that word? Okay. So your hair is going to turn colors. Why? Because it's natural. Because you've got subtle winds that are absorbing, and upward moving subtle winds. When they start degenerating, your hair changes color. So does your eyesight. Your eyesight goes. Your hearing goes. When downward voiding subtle winds start changing and absorbing and dissolving and degenerating, which is natural, then your joints start hurting. Lower limb. I have some issues with my knees. I just had I have a new pain the last few days, and I'm like, okay, is this going to be a serious pain, like for the rest of my life? Is it just a strained muscle? Or is it something else? Who knows, right? So it's kind of this acceptance, but a lot of people don't accept. And I know there's things he doesn't accept where I see the waning, like the moon waxes and it wanes, and you watch it every month, and so does life. So it's very hard for a big, strong man like that, and the waning, and he never thought he'd live this long, and it's, kind of, so sometimes he really resists, sometimes he doesn't, and he's pretty realistic, and then other times he resists, and then he gets really miserable, and then it starts coming out onto other people. So for me, I look at my own mind too, and I think, when am I resisting and not accepting the present, and when am I when you're more accepting and in the present, it flows like that, and then I can much more experience my interconnectedness with everyone, my interdependence. if I live long enough, I will need help. But you know what? I need help right now. Going around the world teaching, if it weren't for Fiona, if it weren't for this person, if it wasn't for this person, with, each of these people that allowed this to happen, that's the reason we're here right now, is due to the kindness of others. Every cushion they have in this room, everything on the wall, every light was, somebody thought about it. Somebody thought where to put the bookshelves and the water bowls. And so it's all due to the kindness, and everything is like that on the planet. I even think like our infrastructure. The roads are smooth. I've been in countries they're not. It's horrible. You're full of dust. You go out on a little thing and and you can't breathe. And there's so many little kindnesses but that's really hard for people, I think. Another way with empathy, and this I mentioned, activates neural networks that are part of this attachment system. It plays a crucial role in the interaction between an infant and an attachment figure such as the mother. So there's often this neural pathway connected, and people that were not properly parented sometimes don't have empathy. It's hard for them to understand or exercise empathy because they never made that connection on a brainwave level. Finally, when empathy arises in response to someone else's suffering, empathy, as scientists say, is associated with a pain matrix, regions associated with our personal experience of pain. So when you say, my mother died, it can activate that in me if I have empathy. But some people don't have it. So you see there's a devoid, or people's fear of facing the pain. They're like, I can't go there, like that. So we have a couple different things. But I find the empathy really does open the heart, does allow you to, and also deconstruct and dismantle some of the compartments, so that maybe we could one day be the blissful energy that His Holiness is, through that big thing of practice of compassion and empathy. And I've seen His Holiness at teachings in person. He walks out, and he's going to get into his car, if it's by the curb. I've seen this happen a few times. And he'll pass, and there'll be people lined up, and there's security, but there's often somebody in a wheelchair. And one time there was a woman very deformed. I've seen this, and one time there was a guy very deformed. And His Holiness goes right over, and he gets right in there. We're always kind of like, I don't really want to touch them. And you want to look, you're curious, but then it's not polite. But you're kind of like, wow, like this person's really, And His Holiness just gets right in there. I mean, he's got 1,000 arms, right? So he's just, but think of that space of heart and mind where you feel the love, you really feel the love he has, and how seen this person is for the first time. Like he sees. And I know Cory Booker, this is another thing about compassion and empathy in general, related to our mindfulness and awareness. So, let me just talk about this for a moment without this. When you go through your daily life, and we can do this at the break time, I think it's helpful, is there's certain things and people that we see in high relief, that we focus on, and they take a little bit more dominance in the view. And then there's some people and things you don't see, like that. So, if I could ask you right now to close your eyes, everybody close your eyes. No peeking, okay? Close your eyes. So, can you just tell me what color the carpet is in the room? Raise your hand if you know the color of the carpet. Okay. Raise your hand if you know the color of the walls in the room. Okay. Okay, so open your eyes. So very few of you knew the color of the carpet and you walked right over it. You're sitting on it. I mean, it pervades the room. So what happens is there's things we don't see. Now we get distracted by people and experiences coming at us. But this is what I find about concentration meditation, Shine, and meditation in general, is I am slowing my mind down. And our cultures don't like that because we have to do things faster, okay? No, the more I slow my mind down, I found the more productive I am. I'm not a big multitasker anymore. I used to do it a lot. It just didn't help me. When I'm doing something, that's what I'm doing, right? I allot the time to do that. And then I finish that time, and then I allot for the next thing I want to concentrate on. And that's all I'm doing. So the phone rings, and the phone vibrates, and the emails come in. I have somebody in my life asked me, we were sitting at her computer, and she said, I need a little bit of help with organization. I'm having trouble with time management, and I feel kind of scattered. I've got this business at home now, and it's going okay, but and her emails had a audio alert every time an email came in. So I noticed that she was working, and we're just sitting there talking. She wasn't formally working, but a little bit. Just as we were talking, every time an email came in, she had to check the email. What a distraction that is. So I said to her, well, the first thing I would do is cut that audio sound, get that sound out of here. And then when you want to do your emails, that's my piece. Then I go 30 minutes, emails, right? And then I'm 100% concentrated on the emails. But they're not interrupting everything I'm doing. I said to her, how do you work? You got every 2 minutes, you're interrupting this thing that you're doing, and now you're here, and you're just reading it because you're not going to respond to it now. But you can get skillful, bless you, you can get skillful with yourself if you're finding you've got distractions. So now I just try to do one thing at a time, and a lot. Manage the time. It doesn't have to be 2 hours on this thing. It could be 20 minutes, concentrated. And what I noticed from the concentration, it weaves through the day, so I'm much more present with what's happening. And I just noticed, then I said, I was in that room when we were having issues about the chargers. Who was with me? Maybe Fiona, and then I pulled out this phone charger, because what happened is I forgot this adapter from the States that plugs me into English thing, and I didn't have it, and I couldn't charge. So people have been very kind. Somebody today turned up with a charger, thank you, but I don't have a charger for this. It doesn't seem to be working. So I was talking about, and then I pulled out the thing, and then I dropped my mindfulness. So part of the charger ended up back in the bag, and I went, it's in the bag, and then I'm like, where is it in the bag? So what happens is, if you're working on concentration, I'm here with my mind in the present. So when I put my glasses down, my mind is there with me putting the glasses down. When I put my keys in my pocket, I'm aware that I'm putting my keys in my pocket. And so the reason you don't know where your glasses are is your mind wasn't there when you put them down. You're someplace else. Body put them down, but the mind didn't. So then you end up, and once you're past 40, you can't remember anything anymore, right? So, but it's the truth, right? So this totally, I'm tracking so much better now. I will misplace something, and very quickly I go, let's remember where I last had it. Yep, I did have it when we got in the car. I was wearing the sunglasses, yep. And then we went in and we put the bikes away in the room. I was just riding these bikes with this friend, and in the room, and then we had trouble with the lock, and I'm like, they're in the bike room. And there they are in the bike room. So it's just a matter of not getting too far away, not letting the mind get too far away from what the activities of the body are doing, or the activities of the speech. You're bringing them together through meditation, through slowing the mind down. I think you'll be much more productive. So it's just, I'm here. We get so caught up in what this guy's doing, so I have to do it just as fast and do it. I don't buy into that as much anymore. And you can't say just because I'm a nun. No, I have a pretty busy life. It's pretty active, what I'm involved in, and at times. And so I notice, and even when I was running the center at Milarepa, this is a center in Vermont, the northeast of the States. We were a beautiful center near Canada. I was there running it for 5.5 years. I had 4 full-time jobs there, nearly full-time. I had 4 jobs, and I was a crazed person, right? And I just noticed, it's like, okay, right now, this is what we're going to be doing. You don't think your life as a nun would be that, but this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is, and so just try that, I think, it's okay to slow the mind down. I think there'll be a bigger space of heart from which to do the things you have to do. And the other thing is, we're always doing. So, but we're really human beings, not human doings. So can I just take time to be sometimes? We're missing all the being. So that's what my meditation practice is about. When I said in the morning, after I realize what a great situation I have, the gratitude, and I know soon I'm going to die, and it could be today. So if this were my last day, how do I want to be? Right? I want to be happy. I want to be peaceful. I would like to be focused on others as much as I could. I think that makes me happy. I'd want to be very present and in sync with myself, and right? That's how I want to be. So from there, I can take that into my day. But I have to you remind yourself, you set it up every day. Yep, that's how I want to be. That's how I want. And then I'm going to remind myself through the day. And I could say, oh, I lost the charger and left the bag. And then I was like, and then I went, wait, this is not how I want to be. So let me recenter. Oh, that's right. I want to be calm. There's no big deal here. It's just a charger. Doesn't really matter. Whatever it is. Okay, but then you're going to have bigger things that topple you. A death in the family, that's a bigger thing. So if you're practicing along the way with smaller things, when a bigger trauma comes, I've got enough of a nice foundation there to do the work from, Doesn't mean you don't grieve and that you're not sad and you don't cry. That's normal. That's healthy, I think. Somebody dies. But at least I've got presence of mind. I'm there for other people that are falling apart. I'm balanced. I'm centered. And sometimes I might just take myself in a room and sob. I might cry with somebody else. I might, have your things. And you sit there and you observe it. Here I am with my mind. Okay, so let's see. So the thing with the pain is hard. And all these people I mentioned have been talking about the pain, about saying that you're broken is about the pain, is facing the pain, going through it. Pema Chodron talks a lot about this too, and she talked about from this war correspondent, Chris Hedges. He had coined this term, the moral ambiguity of human existence. Again, whether to cling to the false security of our fixed ideas and tribal views, even though they only bring momentary satisfaction, or to overcome our fear and make the leap to living an authentic life. Okay? How's your authenticity going? This is tricky for people. Again, we have this false security, fixed ideas and tribal views. In my culture, growing up, it meant getting married and having kids and getting a home relatively close to my parents. Those were fixed ideas and tribal views. There's nothing wrong with any of that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But I was this is what I thought I'd be doing, because everybody did it. This is what I was taught to do. So you go along, and then somehow something happened to me, and I did something different, okay? This was my trajectory. This is what my karma led me to. And what happens is there were a lot of judgments from those having this seeming stability and security in the other world that were like, what are you doing? Because it rattles them. They might want to do something different, but either never conceived of it, never thought it was possible, were afraid to do it, thought they'd be judged. And it was easier. I sometimes say to my friends, it would have been so much easier to some degree had I led a conventional life. You blend in, you fit in more. Would I be deeply happy here? I don't think so. And I do know friends that there's this quest of, they kind of got the attainment of all they wanted to at 50. Holiday home, they have the money, they had the kid, and they did their things. And then they said they thought there was something else that was going to come along with it. There's still some seeking. Some people have that, some people not. Some people that is fulfilling what they've wanted to do. Great. I have a girlfriend that has 2 grown children who are great, and the second one's getting married this autumn. and she and her husband have a good relationship, and her kids are just great, and like she's really in sync, and now she's volunteering for other groups to give back now that she has the freedom. You know, and it's wonderful, her life. I love her family, I love her husband, and I love her, and it's just been really neat to see her being able to do this, because she had struggles when we were in school. So it's just been wonderful. So again, asking yourself, am I being authentic? Am I being authentic? So sometimes I find, you know, when my mother died, my cousin comes in and says, you know, she's in a better place now. Like, that's not something I would say. That's not authenticity to me. It might be for my cousin, but so when am I suddenly saying something that I'm kind of trying to make it okay and forget about the pain and the authenticity and the truth to blend in? And I used to do that a lot when I was younger. I have a chameleon personality, so I tend to blend in with what's happening, and it's not always the best thing. So now that I travel a lot and I'm a little bit older, things have changed traveling, and people ask for a food list. Do you have a food list? What do you eat? What don't you eat? And unfortunately, due to aging, digestion, I can't eat like I used to eat, right? I can't sleep on the floor anymore. And, you know, so sometimes if the bed isn't very good in somebody's place, the next year I come on the tour, I may be shortening the visit to that place, because I can't, it's hard to say anything, you know, and so, Celia, God, her bed is like a little magic realm there. Anyway, last night. So it's very kind. People are so kind, you know, they offer. But so I've had to say on the food list, here's some things that, like this. So I just stayed with a friend. I was teaching at our Paris center, and I have an old girlfriend there. So I have a friend there, and she's not into the Dharma at all. And so she just said, okay, how about if I whip up some things? And she doesn't have any food list. You know, she's my friend. And so then I realized, like, I can't eat any of that food. And I would have just gone along with it, you know. And I finally said to her, you know, that sounds fantastic, but I can't really digest these things. And I used to not say anything. And so more and more I'm kind of, somebody's like, why don't you come and meet us at the bar, and then we'll go. And I'll just say, you know, I'm not actually that comfortable in bars anymore. Like, could we meet someplace else? In the cafe or in the, like where I used to just go along, and then I'd be in this place, everybody's drinking. I don't mind if people drink, but I don't go to bars anymore. It's just not an area that I'm that comfortable in. So can I gently, with compassion, you're just telling people who you are. You're just being who you are. But again, it has to be within reason. I don't want to inconvenience people. So if I really am going to inconvenience people, I'll just go along and say, but generally you can kind of just adjust a little bit. And it tells them who you are. So my friend knows for the next time, I don't eat those foods. Even by the end of the week, she said, oh, I know you don't eat, so how about if I make this? You know, what do you like? We can, you know, in Paris you can get anything. So what do you like that? So a little bit fine-tuning without being a pain in the butt. Just, that, you know, and on a deeper level, food is pretty mundane and things, but on a deeper level, this is who I am. I've had friends, recently I had this kind of strange thing. I have these friends, my friend's partner, she's been a friend since I was born. We're still very close, and her partner has had the good fortune to make a lot of money. So they're in a different economic realm than a lot of people I know now. And I think it's changed her a little bit. I was kind of stunned. So it used to be about helping people, but they're in a different realm. And so her partner now, fortunately, wants to meditate, which is interesting. And I'd love to try to get with him to get, you know, he's very interested in, to some degree. So what happened is I said, why don't you just go onto my website to start, because there is a little thing about setting up the meditation, very beginning meditation practice like I just did this morning. I said to him, just look at that. So he goes on the website, and I do work sometimes with prisoners. So a year ago, what was on the website, and I have a home page, and the home page might have a later, more recent blog. Now, I don't have a recent thing yet. Right now, there's something else on there, but there was the thing about this prisoner that I ended up counseling. We don't have a lot of Buddhist prisoners on death row. That's unusual. And you know, we have an organization called Liberation Prison Project that Venerable Rabina started. It's fantastic. So they not only get materials, reading materials, and things to prisoners, but you can meet with prisoners, you can write to prisoners, you can go to a prison, and I could give refuge to prisoners and conduct classes if it's the right system. So what happened is this man became a Buddhist in prison on death row in Georgia in the United States, state of Georgia, and ended up being in 2 weeks before your execution, you are on, it's called the Death Watch area, and they move you to this area 2 weeks before, and all the appeals are going, and the clemency hearing, and all these things to try to stop the execution. So he's a Buddhist, and so they said to monks and nuns, they sent an email, if you'd like, he gets unlimited domestic phone calls. So would you like, if anyone's interested, you have to give your phone call, it has to be approved and put in the list. So there was an outpouring of phone calls, and I was the second person he called, and we spent 2 weeks on the phone, 1 to 3 hours a day, going through meditations and prayers and Vajrasattva visualization and all kinds of things, and I got very attached to this guy, and it really, I know it sounds strange, a lovely guy, even though, a murder had taken place, and like almost 20 years before. So this was on the website, this blog about my relationship with the guy and what happened and all these things. And so then she called and she said, well, he went on your website and he said there's this thing about a prisoner, that you were counseling this prisoner on death, like it was horrible. And for a minute I was like, for a moment I said, oh, I'm sorry that like that just, and then I went, well, that's what I do, that's the work I do. I'm a nun, what's the problem? Like, so suddenly my authenticity wavered, and I immediately was like, oh, I'm sorry, wow. And then I went, wait a minute, that's not my authentic self. Yes, I said, this is the work, this is what I do. Is there a problem with that? Like, because they're in a totally different space of mind right now. Helping other people isn't what they're interested in. Helping anybody less than that, and it's bizarre to me. So it's kind of, so again, the authenticity and sometimes we get thrown off balance, and then I kind of back up on the horse and go, wait, this is who I am. Or you might the next day or the next time you see the person then realize, no, I really need to tell them that I married this person because they have a really good heart. Or I'm with this person now, and it doesn't matter that, they were homeless or living on the street, or that they have this color skin or these kind of piercings, or they're a really wonderful person. That's why I'm with them. Don't you value my judgment? That, so it's interesting how we set up for the authenticity. So I think that's a really, how we make our, and she also goes on, Pema Chodron, how can we relax and have a genuine, passionate relationship with the fundamental uncertainty, the groundlessness of being a human. Okay? I'm going to die. I make mistakes. I don't have all the answers. Can I be okay with that? I'm okay with that right now. I didn't used to be. Much more okay with that now. And so I feel more relaxed. I feel more peaceful. I don't feel competitive with people. I will notice like that come up, a little edge or a little bit of judgment come up with people, or a big judgment, and then I kind of go, okay, that's just what's there. That's what happens. And I love the humbling effect. So I was driving a few years ago. I have a little Toyota, little car somebody gave me. Gave it to me used. It's very old, but it's fantastic, right? The Mahayana, the greater vehicle. Okay, so I was driving, and I've had judgments about people that drive monstrous SUVs in the States, these huge cars. So there was a guy next to me, but it went on for miles, this car, and I'm next to him, we're at a red light, and all these judgments over at him. He did this. I know who he voted for president. I could tell you. He voted twice for that person, I bet. And this, and I have all this stuff, gas guzzler, doesn't care about the planet. I'm layering. For some odd reason, we end up stopping at the same petrol station. Both get out. Now, you can pay with your credit card. We both end up in the shop. Pay. He's in front of me, right? He's a rescue worker, found out. The whole back of the vehicle has got blankets, emergency blankets, water, energy bars, medical equipment, oxygen, I was like, wah, wah, Where was I wrong? And he's a really nice guy. I mean, he's just, the way he is in the store, I can tell he's a nice person. The way he is with the clerk, and he sees me, how you doing? And I was like, I guess you didn't vote for him twice, huh? So you don't know. You don't know. Unless you're clairvoyant, I don't know. But at least the judgment went out. I acknowledged, got the reins back, then got humbled. I was wrong. So until you have a direct perception of emptiness, your story is always wrong. Your story is always wrong. And we have a lot of stories, right? A lot of stories get out there. So it's very helpful for me to counter my agitation when I watch the story that I get going out there about somebody, just from what you see, what you experience a little bit. And then again, I'm grabbing the reins. I have a valid perception about what I'm seeing, but it's not the whole story. So I don't need to act from the mistaken story, which we often do, have a negative reaction like that. So one thing about kindness, oh, that's good. We always have an option about choosing kindness. There's always that option left based on these things I was talking about. That option, but so it's about this internal work we have to do, and now I take it out there externally. How am I right now? And sometimes I'm not feeling that kind. This isn't feeling that open. If you're very, very tired, I find when I get really tired, more agitation leaps up, more kind of like, So when you're learning, some of you know second languages, right? And if you ever practiced a second language, and I had the good fortune to study about 9 months in France many years ago. So, I was trying to speak, and you're exhausted. And there were nights I go home and I'm like, I just want to speak English, please. I can't think anymore. It's the same with practice. When you're training your mind, it's a process. So sometimes you're tired and you want to go home and turn the TV on, then just turn the TV on. But do you need to watch it for 3 hours? We need breaks. We need a walk in the park. We need time with family and friends. You may want a glass of wine. You want to have a beer. You need times to just, when I'm on retreat, I have space out time. I have around a half an hour in the evening. When I'm at Laudo, I just have a couple of meals, but at night they deliver tea. It's like 7 o'clock at night, and I get my tea, and I sit, one room I had a bank of windows, and I prop my feet up, and I just look out the windows with my tea. I don't do anything else. I'm just spacing out the window. I look at the birds, the trees, the view, nothing. And I just watch my mind. Little bubbles come up, down, another thought, nothing. And I don't do anything about it. I think you need time to space out, to rest the mind so that I can come back a little bit more energized. So when you notice you're really, really tired, this is being wise about your kindness. You wake up in the morning, you're in a bad mood. So I was just talking with Celia. It's nice having someone from my generation, but we had different television programs between England and the States, okay? So in the States, there was a program called Lost in Space, if anyone remembered. She seemed to know the program right away. Lost in Space. So what happens for me, when I get very tired, especially if I'm on the road and you're meeting a lot of people, and I get very tired, I want to be more vigilant about my delusions, about my mind, because when you're tired, that's when the barriers are down, and then I'm more likely to go into some delusion, say something the wrong time, or, just give me the tea and shut up, just. So I notice, so what'll happen is if I notice a delusion coming up in the mind, from Lost in Space, there was a robot, okay, and there was a kid in it called Will Robinson, and he and the robot would go around and explore, because the family was lost in space, okay? And so I remember the robot would say to him, "Danger, Will Robinson, danger." So I have this little thing in the back of my mind that goes, "Danger, danger, Will Robinson." Like, be vigilant about your mind. It's basic Lojong teachings. Lo is mind, Jong, training the mind. So I catch my mind when I'm very tired or major delusions are coming up to be overly vigilant. Watch right now, and I'll say, I'm really tired. and I'm feeling really self-cherishing. I just need this for myself now. I need everybody to go away. I need to go home. I need to lay down. But I'm at this dinner party with the hosts and everything, and I can't get out of this, and I don't want to be here. And I'm watching this arise in the mind. I have all this practice to do. So then I'm going to be very careful about this opening. Because I'll just know that's the tendency that something that I don't want is going to come out of here. So just be careful, and you just watch. Okay? That's your own wisdom of working with wisdom and compassion about kindness. So it's some kindness towards myself because I don't want to get into trouble, and then kindness towards others. So another okay. So unless when I mention the word practice, meditation is practice. Practice is a rehearsal. It's about habituating the mind in a certain way, okay? Unless we work at compassion, unless we practice and, first of all, are aware of our habits, then you can't change your habits unless you're aware of them, okay? Then to change our habits and make it an active, unless we want to make that an active force in our lives, it's only something that can happen to us then, otherwise if we don't practice it. So you get angry when you're provoked. So an automatic reaction to the pain and needs of our loved ones can tend to be a negative response, okay? So if you just leave it at that, just these automatic responses happening all the time uncontrollably, not directed in a beneficial way, you fail to really tap into this transformative power of compassion. So one thing that helps with kindness is a little reflection, okay? I just want to do this and we're going to take a break. Just close your eyes for a moment. I just want you to do a short reflection. Kindness reflection. Receiving kindness. And just find that comfortable space for the body. Just allow the mind to settle on the breath. Can you think of someone in your life who has been a figure of kindness for you? Just think of someone in your life. It may be a couple of people. And just the mere recollection of this person fills you with joy and gratitude. Just reflect on them. It could be a teacher who gently urged you along at school, a teacher who helped you recognize your personal strengths. Could be a very, very close friend who lets you know that they've got your support. They will always support you, be there for you. Could be parents. And just allow this reflection, this joy and gratitude to spread in your body, mind. Just let yourself feel that as much as you can. just relax. So sometimes when we reflect on these people that have been kind to us, and you see how it makes you feel, positive way, you can think about if I could just turn a little kindness to somebody sometimes, the impact. It could be a small level, could be a great level of what it could mean to them. And I know on smaller levels, I was on a bus in New York City, just a general bus going back to Philadelphia. It's 2 hours away. Bus was full of people, and there were, everybody had a seat, and I bumped a guy in the aisle, moving through the aisle, and I think because of the color of my skin, he was kind of hostile to me right away. But when I turned, just genuinely, not having any charge to him, and I really, and I just turned and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I really meant it, I think he could see that that's where I was. So then he looked at me and he checked me out. He was like, I was dressed like this, and then he could see that I didn't really mean any harm. Like there was nobody to fight with, which is, and then he looked at me and he said, "You're okay." Like it was interesting, but I could see how maybe had I been different, or had I been like, "Hey, what's your problem?" People do that. They bump in and then they go, "Hey, so what's the point of it?" People bump into each other all the time. It just happened. So if you can respond with kindness, the whole thing diffuses. But when you don't, when you have a charge, and you can see this if you go to, I don't know if you go to any larger kind of markets, like where there's more cashiers. Do you shop in stores like that? Or do you have small? Sometimes, and you see people vying to get in, and you see them rush over. And so Bodhisattva warriors in the supermarket, I mentioned this here before, I think. They're getting into a queue. You can get in the shortest queue, but if you have a lot of stuff and you haven't put it on the thing yet, maybe you quickly look around for the person that just has one thing of eggs they want to get out with. You let them go. There's many kindnesses you can show people. So you can get creative. At the ATM machine, or when you're waiting for the train. I've been there, at the trains in London, or the trains, and you see people rushing to get to the, we'll all get there. So if you have enough time, they give, so it's just kind of, again, interconnection, interdependence. We're all in this together. So let's take a 20-minute break. I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, however long, something like that. And maybe talk about the kindness reflection, what these people meant for you, or how it made you feel, how you can better choose kindness, like that when you haven't so much. What happened when you didn't? What was going on in your mind from your experience? And ways about how is your multitasking helping you? Can you maybe lessen, focus a little bit more concentrated on one thing? How might that work in your life? That's okay. Yeah, no problem. No problem.